Fam, what's up with the squad? You already know what time it is. Cess Talk Sports and Be Wise PoliSports, where we serve the truth, hot, no chaser, no filters, and definitely no highlight real fluff. It's Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies, and today we stirring the pot with facts and feelings. Now pull up close, because the WNBA just made a move that should have everybody side eyeing the power structure. They announced 3 new expansion teams. But you know who didn't get denied? Not Candace Parker's black-led Tennessee group. Not Jayson Tatum and them in St. Louis. Not one of the black investors or ex-players who came to the table with vision, capital, and community ties. Instead, all 3 went to NBA-tied ownership again. Like we ain't seen this story before. See, fam, this ain't just a coincidence. This is consolidation. This is chess. Because if these deals go through by 2030, 12 out of 18 WNBA teams will be in the hands of NBA affiliates. All this just months before the next CBA negotiations, where players are demanding more pay, equity, and real decision-making power. Let's call it what it is, a preemptive strike. Keep the circle small, keep the checks in the house, keep the power protected. But here's where it gets real. This ain't just about who owns that team. This is about who gets to build generational wealth, who gets to shape the narrative, and who gets shut out the second they reach for more than just a jersey and a mic. Black women have carried this league since day one. Black athletes have built this house. But every time ownership is on the table, the goalposts move. The handshake disappears. The game changes. So today we ask the question that's been simmering for a minute. Will black women, the ones who played, coached, elevated, and saved this league, ever get a real seat at the ownership table? Or are they just expected to keep pouring drinks and uplifting brands they don't get to lead? And y'all already know I don't walk through this fire alone. Joining me today, y'all know who it is, my co-host in truth, the one who breaks it all the way down, sharp wit, sharper receipts, and zero patience for power games. Political ill. Go ahead and take us deeper into what's really at stake here.
Well, thanks, Auntie Cess. You already laid the groundwork. Now let's call it what it really is. It's a calculated consolidation of economic power. The league and the NBA are moving in lockstep, just as the players are finding their voice, their leverage, and their value in a booming marketplace. The WNBA is entering a new era. Record-breaking viewership, booming merch sales, sold-out arenas. And right when the players are starting to ask for ownership, the league started building walls around it. That's not just strategy, that's suppression. And don't get it twisted. Candace Parker and Jayson Tatum weren't bringing vanity bids. They had resources, vision, and alignment with the culture of women's basketball. Their bids represented a future of the game where athletes, especially black ones, aren't just faces of the league, they're architects of it. But this move also plays directly into the power dynamics of the upcoming CBA negotiations. Players have opted out. They want revenue sharing. They want an equity model similar to Unrivaled. They're no longer content with just being the product. They want partnership. So what better time for the NBA to stack the deck, gain even more control of the league, and tip the scales before the negotiation starts? See, optics matter. The timing matters. The message matters. When expansion opportunities arise and all 3 go to NBA-controlled groups while black-led bids are quietly shut down, it's not just a missed opportunity, it's a warning shot. The question now is, will the players respond like employees or like owners in waiting? This ain't just expansion. It's a referendum on who gets to own the future of women's basketball. And in just a minute, we're going to break down what it means for labor, equity, legal pushback, and whether this could be the next great sports discrimination case hiding in plain sight.
Let's break this down real slow for the folks in the back. For the folks playing dumb and for the ones still trying to spin this like it's growth. 3 new expansion teams. 0 black-led ownership groups at the table. That ain't just strategy. That's structure. Candace Parker, one of the most decorated players in W history. Future Hall of Famer. Broadcast powerhouse. Investor. CEO. Came correct. Still got denied. Jayson Tatum. Active NBA star. Hometown hero in St. Louis. Black man with roots and receipts. Also got denied. So ask yourself, what does that say about who this league's trust to build legacy? Because the damn show ain't us. See, we keep getting fed this pretty little package that the WNBA is the progressive league, the one that gets it, the one that's doing it different. When it's time to pass out the power, they reach for the same dusty playbook, NBA-tied ownership, big market gatekeepers, closed doors and tighter circles. This was the moment to make a statement, to diversify the ownership ranks, not just the roster, to show the world that former players, black women, community-rooted leaders belong in the front office and ownership suite, not just on media panels or jerseys. And instead, they fumbled. They froze out folks who've earned the right to lead. They've doubled down on familiarity over future. Let's keep it all the way a buck. This was the W's moment to walk the damn talk, and they blew it. You mean to tell me Candace, Ace, Parker ain't qualified? She's a one-woman NBA program, player, exec, mentor, mogul, and she still got the game if she wanted to suit up tomorrow. So don't play us and call it a coincidence. That was politics, power, and protectionism, and it's loud. And this right here is why we created PoliSports Tea Time, because every business decision the league makes, that's a value judgment in disguise. That's a window into who they see as worthy of ownership and who they'd rather keep clapping from the sidelines, no matter how many receipts they bring to the table. So if you're tired of the performances without the power, if you're sick of the lip service without the legacy, welcome. You're in the right place. Because over here, we don't just spill the tea, we decode the damn blueprint.
Absolutely, Cess. Let's be honest. This wasn't just a rejection of two bids. This was a rejection of a model, a black-led, player-rooted, cultural forward model of ownership. The kind that actually represents the demographics that's been holding down the league. Black women, fans, black women athletes, black women leaders. The WNBA has always leaned on their labor, their activism, their visibility. But this move shows they still don't want us to share that control. And now when you look at the optics, they couldn't be clearer. You had one of the most recognizable women basketball figures in Candace Parker, whose name alone opened doors in sports, media, and corporate America. You had Jayson Tatum, a top NBA all-star and champion, trying to bring pro basketball to a city like St. Louis, which hasn't had a team since the Hawks left in the 1960s. That would have been historic. That would have been generational. But that would have been disruptive. And I think that's the key, disruption. These bids challenge the status quo. They push the WNBA to consider a future where ownership doesn't just come from the inherited NBA capital or private equity funds. But instead of taking that step forward, the league chose safety, familiarity, and control. They chose the NBA umbrella again. So when we ask why weren't these bids accepted, the answer is as much about what they represented as who was behind them. Because independent black ownership isn't just a business proposition, it's a political act. And for some folks in those ownership suites, that's more threatening than anything Candace could have ever done on the court. Now let's go ahead and rip off the mask off this little progressive league branding the WNBA likes to wear. Because while the players are leading on social justice, racial equity, and inclusion, the league's ownership structure is mirroring the same old gatekeepers, keeping the system we see in the NBA and the NFL. Black people are encouraged to be stars, entertainers, and laborers. But when it comes time to own something, suddenly the requirements change. Just look at what happened with Michael Jordan. He was the only black majority owner in the NBA, and he got slowly edged out of control in Charlotte. And that's Michael Jordan, arguably the most influential basketball figure in history. If he's not protected from ownership attrition, what hope does a rising black entrepreneur or former player really have? The signal is clear. The wealth you generate on the court is appreciated, but the power you build off, that's managed. And this is what we have to understand. It's not about whether black ownership is capable. It's about whether the structure is willing. And from where I'm sitting, the WNBA has just told us it prefers ownership that is tied to the NBA, not to the communities that built the W. Ownership that's corporate, not grassroots. Ownership that's male-led, not women first. So yeah, say all the right things in the press releases, drop campaigns about inclusion, but if the structure replicates the same exclusion, then your brand isn't equity, it's PR. And let's be clear, PR doesn't redistribute power.
Say that again, Lil, and say it louder for the folks trying to act brand new. Because this right here, this is plantation politics with a rebrand. They want the culture, they want the aesthetic, They damn sure want the labor, but they're not trying to hand over the house keys. We've seen this here. We've seen this before. The NFL been running this play for decades. 70% black on the field, 0 black majority owners off it. And now here come the WNBA, the league that swore it was different. Flipping the same old script with a softer beat and a new slogan. Let's keep it all the way real. This ain't about money. It's about permission. It's about who they trust with power. Who gets the call when the business shifts? Who they're comfortable letting into the suite when the stakes are legacy. Candace Parker had the money. Jayson Tatum had the backing. What they didn't have, the right complexion or the right connection to make it past the velvet rope. Because the W ain't moving for inclusion. They moving for control. Tight, close, familiar, NBA aligned, NBA approved. And if we honest, that's not about progress. That's about preservation of power, of comfort, and of a structure that's profitable as long as black folks stay on the stage, not in the suite. They'll put black women on every campaign. They'll honor them at halftime, flood the timeline with highlight reels and hashtags. But when it's time to hand over the keys to an actual franchise, silence. And silence is always strategy. So now the question is this. How long are we going to keep watching these same folks inherit power while black women keep being told to clap for visibility? Because let's be clear, visibility without access is just exploitation with good light. And I know y'all know about, and I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of watching black brilliance get marketed and monetized while black ownership keeps getting minimized. This is why we exist, fam. We're not just here to watch the game. We're here to decode the playbook. So let's go ahead and unpack this whole father knows best narrative they keep trying to dress up as a growth strategy. Because from where we're sitting, this ain't looking like expansion. It looked like consolidation. The WNBA out here hitching this whole future to NBA ownership like that's the only lifeline that matters. But here's the real question. Are they growing the game or colonizing it? Because that's exactly what it feels like. They told us NBA infrastructure was just here to support the W, bringing in resources, access to arenas, maybe a few savvy execs to help level things up. That's what they said. But now, by 2030, 12 of 18 teams will be NBA owned. That's not support. That's a takeover. That ain't help. That's a merger. That ain't partnership. That's control. What we're watching is a women's league that was supposed to stand in its own power, slowly being absorbed into the NBA's corporate bloodstream. Another cog in a machine. And here's the thing. Once the NBA fully locks in, they're not letting go. Power don't give itself back. Let's not forget the WNBA's origin story was already complicated. Born under the NBA umbrella, yet that was the start. But the vision, the real mission, was for this league to grow its own wings, to stand tall, to set its own standard. But what we're seeing now ain't flight, it's a fold. It's digging deeper into daddy's wallet and calling it progress. And yeah, maybe that secures a couple sponsorship deals in the short term. Maybe it guarantees some primetime slots at big stage moments. But what we're losing is way more valuable. Independence, agency, leadership, direction. Because when the folks who cut the checks are also the ones writing the rules, when they control the teams, the broadcast rights, the media narrative, and the branding, you don't run a league, you run a damn subsidiary. And I didn't pull up for a G League with lip gloss. I pulled up for a league that's bold enough to build something new. And I keep asking the same folks who've always had the power to please let us grow. Let me be clear. The W don't need permission. It needs vision. And if we ain't careful, we're going to look up and realize we traded progress for proximity and still got left out the room when it mattered most. We're going to get into it. Stay locked.
Cess, you right on them. You right on the money. And look, let's not pretend the NBA isn't involvement hasn't brought some benefits. Okay, national exposure, shared arenas, access to sponsorship network, and those things matter, especially in the sports ecosystem that's already hostile to women leagues. But the real question is at what cost? Because power is never handed over for free. And what we're seeing is a slow rebranding of the WNBA as an extension of the NBA, not a force of its own. And the problem with that is when women's sports grow under male governance, the values, priority, and leadership pipeline starts to mirror exactly what they're trying to disrupt. Think about this. When was the last time a WNBA executive was chosen who didn't have NBA or corporate ties? How many of these team owners even understand women's sports culture beyond revenue projections? That's the danger here. When NBA guys come in, they often see the W as a portfolio asset, not a mission-driven space for equity and innovation. So when people say, well, the NBA just helping, I say helping who? Because real help empowers. It doesn't absorb. If the WNBA becomes a reflection of the NBA economics, then we lost the soul of the league before it even reaches its potential. And that ain't growth, that's assimilation.
You want to know what really shakes the table? It ain't another marketing campaign. It's not more NBA money with a different logo slapped on it. It's when folks closest to the culture start owning the damn teams, not just hooping for them. That's what independent ownership brings to the table. Not just new checks, but a whole new value system. One that sees players as people, not just walking profit margins. One that builds with the community, not just extracts from it. One that actually understands that culture became because it came from the culture. Look at Angel City FC in the NWSL. That's not just a team, that's a movement built by women, funded by former athletes, powered by a mission that centers gender, equity, community roots, and player voice. And here's the part they never want to highlight. It's making money. Because when leadership aligns with purpose, that's when you build real fan connection. That ain't dilution, that's depth. That's staying power. So when folks ask, well, who else gonna own the team if not the NBA? I laugh. And when I list names, former W legends, Black women investors, athlete-led ownership groups that are already got the vision, the capital, and the culture IQ to scale. We're not lacking talent. We're not lacking resources. We're lacking access. Because the gates stay locked unless you come dressed in the right skin, suit, or Silicon Valley stamp of approval. The WNBA keeps saying they want to grow the game, but keep slamming the door on the very people who know how to grow it from the ground up. That's why independent ownership ain't just a financial model. It's a cultural intervention. It challenges the old boys club. It breaks up the monopoly on power. And it flips the script on who gets called qualified. Because let's be real, Black women built the game. Former players are the blueprint. The culture ain't on the outside looking in. The culture is the damn foundation. We know our work. We know what we bring. And we know this league can't talk equity out one side of its mouth while gatekeeping out the other. It's time they catch up because we're not asking to be let in. We already got the keys. We just building our own doors now.
Now that's the truth, Cess, because real disruption isn't loud, it's structural. And independent ownership, especially by Black folks and women, restructures the whole power map. It challenges the norms about who gets to lead and whose vision drives the future. It asks, what if the people most impacted by the system got to redesign the system? And don't miss this. Independent ownership opens the doors to innovation outside the NBA model. It's where ideals like player equity, mental health prioritization, maternity protection, and community revenue sharing can actually take root. You think a Wall Street-backed NBA owner is pitching that? Not unless it comes with a tax break. But a former player who lived the grind of the W season, she's got every reason to reimagine what ownership should look like. Independent doesn't mean underfunded. It doesn't mean amateur. It means value-aligned, mission-driven, and rooted in the culture that built this league in the first place. These athlete-led, community-backed, women-funded teams are the future of sports. And if the WNBA was really about growth, they'd be invested in that model, not duplicating the NBA's old formula. Because here's the thing. Independent ownership isn't just an option. It's a necessity. It's a necessity. It's the difference between expanding the league and expanding the power structure. And we've had enough of the latter. What we need now is access, and I mean real access, ownership access. Now, we can't just sit on this analysis. We have to start plotting strategy. And the truth is this. This situation raises serious questions about discrimination and ownership opportunities. If Black-led groups are repeatedly being denied while less culturally aligned, but NBA affiliates, bids are accepted, that may not just be a trend. That could be a pattern of systemic exclusion. And patterns like that, they raise red flags under civil rights laws and antitrust reviews. Now, legal action is tough in the sports world. Leagues have wide leeway, but that doesn't mean policy change is impossible. The WNBA could create more transparent ownership criteria. They could mandate equity partnerships in new teams. They could implement racial equity audits on the expansion process. If they wanted to level the the playing field, the tools are there. But here's the pressure point. Fans and media narratives move the needle. Just like fans demanded charter flights and pay equity, they can demand ownership equity too. We need ops. We need panels. We need former players calling this out. Because if this story stays business as usual, then when the system doesn't feel compelled to change, then it will never do so. But if this story becomes the WNBA shout Candace Parker, then we might have a reckoning. And the CBA, that's where the players can finally say, we don't just want better travel. We want a pathway to ownership, whether through revenue sharing models, equity options, or direct investment in expansion bids. The union can make this a labor issue because that's what it is. Ownership is labor. It's legacy labor.
That's it, Lil. And let me stack on that with the truth. The league don't want shouted too loud. The players got more power right now than they've ever had. The viewership up, the merch flying, the sponsors wide awake, and the league feels it. That's why they're making all these consolidation moves right before the CBA table gets spicy. They trying to lock the doors before the players realize just how much leverage they really got. But guess what? The players do know. And now it's about using that leverage strategically. The union got to start thinking bigger than just benefits and bus upgrades. We're talking legacy tools now. That means a real ownership access plan written in ink. Every new expansion should automatically reserve a stake for Black-led and women-led groups. No more maybes, no more we'll consider it, put it in the bylaws. It means pushing for revenue sharing with stock, not just salary bumps. If the league's going to grow off player brilliance, players deserve a piece of the equity, not just a pat on the back. And it's time to call out the elephant stomping through every boardroom. NBA overreach. Say it plain, say it proud. The more they take, the more players and fans lose. But we ain't just waiting on the league to play fair. We building too. Look at what Nafisa Collier and Breonna Stewart are doing with Unrivaled. That's not just hoop dreams. That's ownership by design. That's player-led infrastructure. That's autonomy in motion. And we need more of it. Whether it's NIL platforms, media networks, new leagues, production studios. We got to start building outside these legacy systems. The ones that were never meant to include us, let alone empower us. That ain't the season. This ain't the season to shrink. This is the moment to disrupt forward. And for the fans listening, don't sleep on your own power in this. Tweet, post, write, buy merch from the disruptors. Put your money, your voice, your time behind the ones building different. Because we're not just watching the future of the WNBA. We're watching the future of who gets to own sports. And this time, we're not just fans. We the force.
And let's not miss what's happening in real time. The WNBA Players Association opted out of the CBA. And suddenly the league starts locking in NBA own teams left and right. That's not just business. That is chess. The players are finally demanding equity, not just in paychecks, but in power. And the league counter move, expand under NBA control to make sure they can't flip the table. Players want more perks. They want ownership stakes. They want revenue sharing. They want upgraded travel. They want pathways like Unrivaled, where they don't just play for the league, they own part of it. The labor movement in women's sports is evolving, and the NBA sees it. That's why this expansion feels less like growth and more like a power lockdown. You got to ask, what are they afraid of? Because when the Phil Collier and Breonna Stewart launched the player-owned league, they're saying, look, we're done asking. That sends a signal, and NBA is hearing it loud. That's why they're scooping up franchises before the W's labor force realizes their true power and walks away with the blueprint. And let's be real. If we keep letting billionaires gobble up these teams while rejecting Black-led bids from qualified, deeply rooted candidates such as Candace and Jayson, we've got to start talking about structural discrimination. This isn't just business. It's a system of economic gatekeeping designed to keep ownership white, male, and tightly bound to the NBA influence. And that's not equity, that's empire.
Lil, you said it loud and clear. Empire, not equity. And that's the whole play right there. Because this next CBA, it can't just be about better flights or raising the salary floor. Nah, this got to be about who owns the damn league. Because as long as the ownership stays centralized, labor ain't free. It's just managed. This ain't no standard contract battle. This is a power struggle over the future shape of the WNBA. When the W keeps leaning into NBA ownership, it ain't just about resources, it's about control. It creates a ceiling. It tells players you can thrive, but only within the limits we define. But unrivaled, no, that's a different blueprint altogether. That model don't raise the roof, it blows the roof clean off. It says athletes ain't products, they're partners, co-creators, owners. And that's exactly what scares the system. Black women with an ownership mindset and collective leverage. Let's be real. These expansion decisions, they weren't just a coincidence. They were a preemptive strike, not against lack of experience, but against independence. And let's name it loud. Turning down Candace Parker and Jayson Tatum, that wasn't about readiness. That was about refusing to surrender power. You got two generational leaders with deep roots in the game, the culture, the fan base, and they still got denied. That's not oversight. That's ideology. Because independent ownership, especially black-led, don't just shake the balance sheet. It flips the damn hierarchy. It says we're not just here to play, we're here to own. So here's how we need to reframe the combo. Ownership is a labor issue. Ownership is a gender justice issue. Ownership is a racial justice issue. And if the league won't open the door, players and allies got every right to build a new house with bigger windows, louder rooms, and keys in every damn hand. Because the future of the W ain't just about who plays the game. It's about who owns the court.
Wow, y'all feel that? That wasn't just a conversation. That's a wake-up call. Because when we talk about ownership, we're not just talking dollars. We're talking narrative power. The power to decide who gets seen, who gets paid, and who gets written into history. The WNBA expansion wasn't just about geography. It was about control. And if the players, the fans, the communities who built this league don't get a say in who owns it, then all we're doing is repackaging male sports domination in pink and purple. That ain't progress. That's gentrification, gender equity, gentrified gender equity. But here's the good news. The fans have power too. The same way y'all help get charter flights, y'all can push for ownership access. Y'all can demand equity models. Y'all can shift the media narrative. And we're going to help with that. Because coming soon, we're going to launch an advocacy group for women's sports equity. This group is going to bring policy tools, media campaigns, ownership education, and strategy building for fans, athletes, and allies who want more than some hashtag. They want real systemic change. This ain't just about women playing the game. It's about women owning the ecosystem of sports, from the court to the corporate suite.
You already know, Lil, this ain't about crumbs. It's about the damn table. Because if billionaire NBA owners keep buying up every chair, every seat, every slice of access, the players won't just miss out on ownership. They're going to lose leverage. And what we're watching right now is not progress. It's a structural power grab dressed up in a feel-good expansion press release. But let's be clear. The WNBA's future ain't got to mirror the NBA's past. We don't have to inherit the same broken blueprint just because it's familiar. We can build different. We can build better. We can build blacker. We can build smarter. But only if we stop acting like ownership is some exclusive prize for the highest bidder with the deepest pockets. Nah. Ownership belongs to the ones who built this game with their sweat, with their stories, with their soul. So for everybody in the PoliSports Tea Time fam, this your call. Yeah, like, share, comment, subscribe. Run that up. But don't stop there. Be loud. Be strategic. Be organized. Because when we launch this advocacy arm, when we push this policy platform, when we start pressuring these power structures, we want y'all with us. You ever ask, how do I support Black women in sports? This is how. Policy, pressure, marketing, power building. That's the playbook. That's how we move from the margins to the front office, from jerseys to ownership groups, from clapping in the stands to calling the shots. Because sports ain't never just about the games we play. It's about the systems we disrupt and the stories we tell. And this ain't just about expansion teams. This is about who gets to shape the future of this league. Because if NBA billionaires own the table, players won't even get crumbs, let alone a damn seat. But we see the game. We peep the moves, and now we call in the plays. Stay locked for the next drop. Bias in the Paint, how power gets marketed in women's sports. That's the kickoff to our new 5-part series where we unpack the branding bias and big business behind women's basketball. This is Cess Talk Sports and BY's PoliSports Tea Time. Political Lil,
we out.
Serving the tea piping hot. No sugar, no filters. Stay tuned. Talk soon. We out.